Welcome back to another video. Today I will be crocheting something else. I have started crocheting these wallets. They don't take very long. I only need to know 2 stitches pretty much for this wallet, and that's it. And I will write the pattern in the description as usual. The wallet is gonna look like this, so I'm gonna cover what I have here, but this is gonna be how the wallet looks. So it's a small boho style, very easy to make. All you need is yarn, a hook, this magnet clips for the purse. They are sold for like $5 at Amazon or eBay if you want to add some kind of name as well. So what I don't like about these wallets is that you have to sew, which most crocheters and people who knit, I've noticed nobody likes the sewing part, but you have to sew these 2 parts on the sides, and that's pretty much it. You're done with the wallet, and then you add these magnetic clips and name if you want to, or you can just add some kind of like flower here or something to make it look pretty, and that's it. So I made 3 of these already. They're so easy to make, and I can make them while talking to you guys, so I figured this is perfect because I need something that's repetitive and I don't have to count stitches. So this is what I chose for today's story. Today's story is a unique one because not only was it solved after 48 years, but also the person that was arrested finally after 48 years was still alive and well, and he suffered the consequences, I guess, for what he's done. He finally got what he deserved. Carla Jan Walker was born on January 31st, 1957 in Fort Worth, Texas. She was a 17-year-old high school student who was in love with life. She lived all her life in Fort Worth, Texas, and was dating a high school senior by the name of Rodney McCoy. She was a lovely, kind-hearted person. Carla was a cheerleader and Rodney was a football player in their high school. So, you know, they were popular people. High school cheerleader and a football player dating together. That's like a perfect couple. Carla had 3 brothers and 3 sisters, and she just loved socializing. She was a social butterfly. She loved hanging out with friends, with her family. Carla and Rodney had a perfect relationship. They were never witnessed by anybody to ever have a fight about anything. Her boyfriend Rodney was 18 years old. Carla loved to go dancing, and she would often take Rodney with her to different dances. I would imagine in the 70s it was very popular to go out and dance. no cell phones. People would not hang out by the computer. They would rather go and hang out with friends and go dancing and socialize. And this night was no exception. Carla wanted to go dancing, and they did. So on February 17th, 1974, their high school was holding a Valentine's Day dance. And so they went to this Valentine's Day dance. They had a good time with Rodney. And Carla ended up leaving the Valentine's Day dance in the company of her boyfriend Rodney. This dance was held at their high school at Western Hills High School. So after they left the dance, they decided to dine at a seafood restaurant. And then later they met up with a group of friends to hang out with them by the bowling alley. So there was a spot in the parking lot by the bowling alley where a lot of young people would hang out in their cars and drink there, because it's, illegal for them to be drinking at such a young age, but this is what teenagers do. So, but they actually decided to go to the bathrooms first, so they went to the bathroom at the bowling alley. They came out and stopped their car in the parking lot and decided to just talk for a little bit with Rodney. So Carla and Rodney are in their car, and I believe their friends left after a while. So their friends were not with them at this moment anymore. According to Rodney, Carla's boyfriend, they were just talking, drinking a little bit in the car, and then they started kissing, as young couples do. And they were very passionate at the moment, actually. He got on top of her, and her back, Carla's back, was against the door. And at the moment, the door was not locked in the car. So they forgot to lock the car doors while doing this, which usually people don't really assume someone's gonna barge in to your car, Plus, teenagers, they can be kind of careless at times, so they didn't really think about locking the door, which is unfortunate. So suddenly, while they're making out, a man swung open the door on Carla's side. And remember, she was against the door. So she fell back as the door was opened, and the man ended up forcibly holding her. At this time, neither of them recognized this man. The man had a gun, and he began to give orders. He was threatening both of them with this gun. He then began hitting Rodney on the head with a pistol. As Rodney was holding Carla on her arm the whole time, he would not let go. He was fighting for his girlfriend, of course. But unfortunately, soon enough, Rodney ended up this strange man to stop attacking Rodney. And she also told the man that she will do whatever this man wants as long as he stops attacking him and hitting him on the head. Rodney even remembers that the guy even pointed the gun at his head and even pulled the trigger. However, the gun never fired. And one phrase haunts Rodney to this day. Before he passed out, he remembers Carla saying to Rodney, "Rodney, go get my dad." Rodney remembers the man being in his early 20s. He had short, wavy hair and had a really strong Texas accent. He was wearing green sleeveless vest and a cowboy hat at the time of the attack. So Rodney was still trying to hold on to Carla until he passed out. And he remembers having blood on his eyes and dripping on his face as he was being hit. When Rodney finally awoke, his clothes was all soaked in blood and he was all bruised. He didn't remember where Carla went with this man, or if he even saw anything where they went, so he began to search around the parking lot. It was still the middle of the night while he was searching. He did end up finding Carla's purse. He then drove immediately to Carla's parents because there were no cell phones at that time, so he couldn't really call anyone. He came to her parents in the middle of the night to notify them of the daughter's abduction. Can you imagine hearing these news if you're a parent? When he got to their house, he was in complete shock and he was very disoriented. And in fact, before he even knocked on the door, he got outside their house and was screaming. It was like 4 in the morning. He was screaming. They took her, and Carla's older sister ended up opening the door, and she found Rodney all bruised up and out of control outside. He was crying and very dazed. He ended up explaining everything as what he remembered, what happened to Carla. And her father immediately got dressed and went to the parking lot to go look for Carla. Meanwhile, her mother called the ambulance, and it was actually for Rodney because he was so bruised up and had so much blood on him that he needed ambulance at this time too. Police immediately began their search for a man. According to Rodney's description, there were searches by foot, by cars, by horseback even, and even by helicopters. Unfortunately, with no luck for the first few days, which was completely devastating for the family. However, 72 hours later, a body was discovered. It was discovered in a drainage ditch by Lake Bentbrook, and this was about 18 miles away from the place from which she was abducted from. It was confirmed to be the body of Carla. Her parents were actually able to identify her by the jewelry that was laying around. Even before they found the body, they found all this jewelry that was nearby the place where her body was, and her parents were right away saying, yes, this is hers. We know it. Carla was partially clothed and her clothes were torn was searching for her, she was still alive. Carla was consistently raped and tortured during these 3 days. After that, she was unfortunately strangled to death by the abductor. Toxicology reports also showed that she had a lot of morphine in her body, and this was probably in order to sedate her, so she's easier to torture. But morphine was not just given to her, it was actually injected, and it is very restricted and controlled to purchase this kind of morphine. So police began to wonder how this person was able to get their hands on this kind of medication. This was police's first most important clue, but unfortunately didn't lead anywhere. Rodney was feeling extremely guilty at this time because he knew it was partially his fault for not locking the doors of the car. Since he was not using his own car, he was actually using his mom's car at this time, and his mom's car presented a greater difficulty to lock the doors. So they actually thought that they locked the door, but apparently the pin wasn't lowered enough, so it was not locked all the way. And the man was able to open the door. Because the man opened the door with such a force, they did not have a long reaction time. And every second was of an essence at this time. So people kept calling in tips. There were actually a total of 200 different tips that people called in. None of them led to anything. There was one person that police found as a person of interest. Glenn Samuel McCurley was a 31-year-old man at the time. He had police records for a car theft in the same area, and he even stayed in prison in the 60s. He lived about a mile away from where Carla was abducted from, and he just recently purchased a 22 caliber pistol, and his 22 caliber pistol was suspiciously stolen at the same time as the time of the investigation. However, Glenn never reported the gun being stolen, and his reasoning was that he's an ex-convict, so he was afraid to report anything. His life was quite uneventful. He lived with a wife and 2 kids, and he actually had an alibi at the time when Carla went missing. He said he was home, but nobody could really confirm his alibi. So that was kind of suspicious, because his wife was actually out of town in a different state visiting her relatives, and she could not confirm that he was not home, or he was. And police was also concerned with him because he also got a few days off at the same time of kidnapping. So he was a truck driver, and he suddenly got a few days off just for vacation, but he was just staying at home during this time. Glenn denied any involvement and said he did not know the victim or the family. There were other suspects like Tommy Ray Nealand, who actually confessed to the crime and was even identified by Rodney, the boyfriend of Carla, when he was put in the lineup. But he failed the polygraph test, so police decided to let him go. I don't know if I would trust the polygraph to let this guy go. So this case went cold, and the attacker was never found until 2019, when police decided to reopen it and look into this case case again. The police actually decided to publish a letter that was sent to a police department in 1974, right after the murder happened. It was actually a big part of the evidence, but police never published this letter until recently. And police even shared it on their social media, I think the Twitter account, and their hopes were to reach the author of the letter or somebody that knows who wrote the letter. This letter was addressed to Fort Worth detective Oliver Ball, and the letter read, "I killed Carla Walker in Pembroke. Sign 10100. P.S. It is hard to say, but it is true. Sign 10100. However, police never revealed if anyone actually came forward about this letter. In 2020, DNA samples were finally taken from Carla's clothes, and they were sent to a modern private laboratory. So the technology was able to identify the person's criminal genetic profile by comparing crime scene evidence to database of DNA profiles obtained from convicted offenders. It is called Combined DNA Index Systems, or CODIS, CODIS. The police narrowed down suspect list to 3 brothers, since one of the killer's family members submitted their DNA to a website, a genealogy website like 23andMe or Ancestry.com, and investigators identified Glenn McCurley as one of the 3 brothers. And this is the guy that was one of the suspects at the beginning of the investigation in the 70s. They actually followed Glenn McCurley around and ended up collecting his DNA from a cup that they got from a trash can that he threw away. And they found that the DNA was a match. This amazing new technology helped detectives identify cold case killers like the Golden State Killer. However, this was the very first time that this technology actually made it to the courtroom. McCurley was now 78 years old, and he actually pled guilty after 2 days of testimony. So he first insisted that he was helping a girl escape from the clutches of her boyfriend, that her boyfriend was actually trying to rape her, and he came to help and save her. But upon further pressure from the detectives, Glenn ended up confessing to torture, rape, and murder of Carla. He actually confesses everything in such detail. It's really disturbing. There is a video that you can watch of his whole confession. It's about 2.5 hours long, and it can be found on YouTube, I believe, and it's worth watching. I suggest going forward to about 1.5 hours of confession. This is when the confession begins, and this is when he breaks down and tells the details, and it's really gruesome and disgusting about how he ended up living his life in such a lie, and I'm not sure if he did this to anyone else or not. During his confession, Glenn explained that he was drinking beers and whiskey all day that day because his wife left town, and then he ended up getting carried away. How do you get carried away by murdering someone? That is just crazy. Excuse. He then says that he's not even sure if he even killed her, because when he left her, where he left her, she was standing up. And detectives actually assured him that he he broke down and told everything, told the truth, finally. This case became the first case that is this old. It's 48 years old, with a live suspect that was actually solved. And I believe Carla's mother and brother is still alive. Actually, Carla's mother still lives in the same house, and she left Carla's room still untouched. So to this day, the room is still like Carla left it. And I am so glad that justice was finally served for this poor victim. Well, thank you guys for watching.